Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me for this pre-recorded webinar presentation. My name is John Asan, and I'm the technical leader at Versasec. Versasec is the leading provider in identity and access management solutions, and our flagship product is known as vSEC CMS S-Series. During this session, we'll be exploring some new key features, integrations, and some other enhancements that really make version 6.8 a major step forward, think for our software. Without further ado, let's jump in and discover these exciting features and how they can potentially optimize your identity and credential management operations. All right, to start with some of the highlights there, the Thales SafeNet Trusted Access, which is an IDP provided by Thales. And our integration with Thales SafeNet Trusted Access IDP enables organizations to efficiently manage and issue supported FIDO credentials. The addition of newly supported credentials from vSEC and Devrient. It's an exciting new technology partner and potential new markets there. We've also added support for 2 additional tokens from Thales, extending the list of supported credentials and integrations with Thales, of course. We're also happy to announce a new integration partnership with EverTrust Horizon CA. Again, strengthening here our commitment on expanding in our CA integration capabilities, offering enhanced certificate management solutions through leading providers like EverTrust. The Thales IDPV with RFID, it's a joint solution we have with Thales, and we're excited to introduce this collaborative solution between Thales and Versasec. The great joint solution holds good promise, so particularly in the industrial markets, addressing some unique authentication needs, I believe, for those environments. We also have some additional tools to help customers with the latest Microsoft changes and then patches. So this is coming in November 14th, I believe. Microsoft will implement a patch that will impact the authentication process for existing smart card logon certificates. And as a result, these certificates will no longer be available for authentication. And to address this issue, users will need to update their existing certificates or obtain new ones. We have developed a tool that could help them in the process to help them resolve this issue. The first one is the integration here with Thales SafeNet Trusted Access with vSEC CMS for FIDO management. Now, this integration enables us to issue FIDO credentials in vSEC CMS, which are then provisioned for the user within the Thales STA IDP. Users would utilize these credentials then to authenticate themselves in applications through the single sign-on providers that the companies or the organization would have configured to use, using the STA as the IDP, of course. Now, as a part of the credential lifecycle process in CMS, in addition to issuance, the vSEC CMS supports FIDO credential revocation when necessary. That means that FIDO credentials associated with the user can be deprovisioned and revoked within CMS and then deprovisioned within the STA IDP. Worth to note, our integration with Thales STA here supports all currently supported FIDO keys and vSEC CMS. Now, regarding credential management on behalf of the user, which is a centralized approach, the user may be present, of course, to enter their PIN during that issuance, or the credential can be dispatched to the user who can then set their PIN through self-service at a later time. Another worthy mention here, once the user sets their FIDO PIN, they will also need to perform a one-time activation of the credential within the STA IDP. The activation would be done through the IDP's logon page itself. And we have a demo on this to show you. Okay, so to support FIDO-only credentials, we've made some significant enhancements really to our architecture. And when we say FIDO-only credential, it does not refer to any particular specific model. It's just a way of saying here that these credentials only have FIDO based applets. Potentially they can have NFC or RFID, but it's FIDO only without PKI. And the first FIDO only device we have added support for is the Thales SafeNet eToken FIDO. To manage this device, it's relatively simple in CMS. We register it in vSEC CMS using its unique ID. Then we can issue the FIDO credentials by generating a the private FIDO key pair and then storing this in our database. During the initiation process or setting the PIN, for example, you have the option to set a PIN, although it's not mandatory as FIDO can be used without a PIN. We then publish the user's public key in the IDP. And for example, in case of revocation, we will remove the FIDO provisioning from the user, from the IDP, and then deregister the credential from the CMS repositories and database. Some additional enhancements here to manage the FIDO keys directly from vSEC CMS applications. We also added support for the resident keys. Now, when deploying FIDO, the key type can be selected between resident or key handle keys. And resident keys has advantage of also allowing the relaying party to identify the user when authenticating so that the user does not have to enter their ID. And simply by inserting and then touching and entering the PIN is enough in that case. Now, in contrast with the key handle, you'd have to enter your user ID, then also present your FIDO PIN. Worth a note that if you're using the resident key option, you are required to set a FIDO PIN on the credential. With key handles, the organization has an option to configure a FIDO PIN if you have also configured the IDP the same way, for example. Then entering the user ID, you would enter the user ID, insert and touch the FIDO key, could then be enough to just authenticate. But this decision really is the customer's decision to make, and of course is dependent on the IDP's configurations, policies set there. So there are different configurations and policies that could be applied at the IDP that the organization would need to consider. Now, the settings for this on CMS, on the resident or key handles, can be configured in the vSEC CMS card template. So we added support for GSEC and Devrient GND, which is the StarSign product line, which includes a key fob, a USB token, smart card, and a wristband options. These devices are equipped with both PIV and FIDO applets. Now, in the initial release, our focus is on supporting PKI functionalities for these devices. However, we encourage you to stay tuned for future updates regarding these exciting credentials. Expanding our list of supported Thales credentials in vSEC CMS and included the addition of the Thales SafeNet eToken FIDO, Thales SafeNet eToken Fusion, Thales the FIDO only one, which we just mentioned earlier. And now with the expanded support for the Thales credentials, of course, customers gain greater control and manageability capabilities within vSEC CMS on these addition of these two new credentials. So we're excited to announce a new integration in vSEC CMS with Horizon EverTrust. Horizon is the name of this certificate authority offered by EverTrust. So this integration really enables a seamless integration and management of Horizon EverTrust CA within vSEC CMS, so that customers can now configure and easily issue, manage, and revoke those certificates from Horizon CA. We're also pleased to introduce a new REST API interface for the integration into vSEC CMS lifecycle tasks. The REST API enhances our existing portfolio of APIs which we offer, which we already included, like SOAP, COM, and WebStart API. But by utilizing the REST API, you can automate the tasks, reduce manual intervention, of course, and ensure consistency in your credential management process. So this gives the ability to utilize the REST API instead of the other ones that we have, which is a more popular API these days, I guess. To raise awareness here on customers regarding an important update outlined in that KB article there from Microsoft. Now, after November 14th, the current smart card authentication certificates will no longer be usable unless they have been reissued with a stronger or strong mapping, let's say, typically an SID, a security identifier. You can read about the guidelines and all the details in that Microsoft KB article. But mainly, strong mapping involves adding or mapping the certificate serial number to the user in the Active Directory. This security measure implemented by Microsoft, say, prevents impersonation and really improves the overall security posture. So it's crucial for organizations to prioritize addressing the issue within their environments, of course. Now, to assist customers, we as in Versasec provided a tool that kind of helps them evaluate their environment, and export the necessary certificate data that's been issued by CMS. But the tool helps customers to decide where that data needs to be imported in order to establish the mapping for the certificate, for their certificates, of course. But they need to dive in and ensure that they understand this issue in their environment and how it would apply. Another option from vSEC CMS self-service would be to perform certificate reissuance. So through this process, users can obtain, for example, a new certificate that includes that required strong mapping. Ultimately, here, the organization must determine which option is most suitable for them to use. The Thales IDPV with RFID, that is ID Prime Virtual Smart Card with RFID, is an innovative solution that combines the virtual smart card technology with RFID functionality. The IDPV smart card is securely stored on a server, and it can be loaded onto a PC when the user attempts to log into that device. Now, to authenticate using the IDPV, users first authenticate to their identity provider using their username and password. Once authenticated, the virtual smart card is then loaded, virtually inserted onto the machine. Users then enter their PIN to complete that authentication process. Now, in a scenario where multiple users will log in, for example, into a shared machine frequently, finding the relevant virtual smart card can be time-consuming and a pretty not so good, let's say, user experience. So in order to enhance the user experience, particularly environments like factories where the physical access management is more common, this solution integrates the RFID and NFC tags. And these tags can contain, these tags normally contain a unique user ID. So by tapping the RFID tag on the NFC reader of the device they are logging into, the user's ID Prime Virtual Smart Card is automatically loaded. And then the user only needs to enter the PIN for authentication, thereby significantly improving that user experience. So yeah, this is a great promising and great feature ahead. Stay tuned for further developments and information from Versasec and Thales regarding this exciting solution. Some other noteworthy enhancements. When exporting data as a part of vSEC CMS lifecycle tasks, we have an option to have a format of that file in XML or CSV format. We have added the task to format now can be a JSON file as well. Writing a user de-enter transaction log on status changes. And so we've added a new field here to the smart card transaction log containing additional information about the managed credential at the time the logged transaction took place. Again, it's important here for improving the reporting capabilities based on the transaction log entries. To have that DN information there would be importing transaction information. The CSN is now included in the lifecycle related Windows events. So we have many of the existing events in CMS captured into Windows events now have been extended to also include the card serial number. So this really improves the information capturing when someone is using, of course, utilizing the Windows events to monitor the lifecycle operations being performed on user smart cards. So they're performing or they're monitoring the system. This information can be very useful for them. The key import functionality for credential migration. When migrating from, this is in the context of when migrating from other CMS applications, we normally migrate the smart card admin keys that we would use to manage that device, that smart card, that token. We also have some capabilities around migrating the certificate data and information. But this information does not include the private keys, for example. So if you have an encryption certificate, you could not, for example, perform a recovery of an encrypted data if you lost your original device. So what we've added here is some capability on importing those keys for those encryption use cases where it would be required to perform a recovery of those cards if they're lost or damaged. The customer, again, can then issue a new smart card or token and recover the old keys to be able to decrypt that data. Yeah. Important to note on this migration processes is they do normally require some evaluation and consultancy. So it's not out of box, but we do have some capabilities around this. So if you have any questions around this, feel free to reach out to us, and we can provide more details on this.